Hi. So I just wanted to record my lesson. I was on maternity leave, so I'm not doing my lesson until tomorrow and Wednesday because we are on a block schedule. But I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. So this is gonna be a two-part series. I'll show you what I'm gonna do tomorrow. Then tomorrow I can make a recording of my feedback I got from my students. So when students come to class, I have them pick up their supplies and everything like that, calculator, desk, until the bell rings. Now, after the bell rings, I'm going to have the kids do two warm up questions here. So they'll have 10 minutes. I'll put the 10-minute timer on, and then we'll go through it. Then after that, I will work through the questions with them. So that should take about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, I go into the calendar that they have for the upcoming weeks. I like to let them know what they're doing. We're doing applications of systems today. Then they're going to be graphing systems of inequalities. Then exam review. So the objective is students will be able to use systems of equations to compare the financial realities of minimum wage and living wage earners in Dallas Fort Worth area by discussing real world situations with their shoulder partner. All right. So we're going to talk about minimum wage. Minimum wage is legally mandated lowest hourly pay an employer can offer workers. For example, in Texas, minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. So that's what it is in Texas. So legally, that is the minimum they are supposed to pay you. It is set by the federal state law. It may not reflect the actual cost of living in the specific area. So we're going to talk about that. And then a living wage is the estimated income level required for an individual or family to afford basic necessities like housing, food, healthcare, transportation without financial hardship. Unlike minimum wage, it varies based on local costs and family size, aiming to meet the actual living. And what I actually didn't talk about was while the kids are doing their warm up, this is going to give me enough time to pass these out. So I already cut these up. I put them in baggies, and each student is going to pick what job they get and the pay per hour. I have like 50 of these. So they're going to pick and they vary. I have high income, low income, medium income. And so everybody's going to have a different type of job because I kind of wanted them to see what different type of jobs can get you. All right. So that's just a little bit of that. So everybody has that. So now we're going to go into key expenses. We're going to talk about how these are approximate expenses. These are not the actual price, but I got an average. So we can talk about how much a one-bedroom apartment costs: $1,200, food $300, electricity $150, health insurance $400, car payment $300, car insurance $100, gas $150, maintenance on your vehicles is $50 a month. Social activities $150 a month, phone bill $60 a month, and then miscellaneous costs. And then the students are going to have to take a few minutes. I guess I can put a timer here and I'd say, hey, take 5 minutes to add up all these expenses. You need to know how much they are. Okay, so once they get that, they're going to get this worksheet, and I will get it on a different screen so you can see it better. Um, they're going to have this worksheet and they're going to go through it. They're going to have probably the entire class period to go through it. And we can go over the questions. They're going to take the career that they got and they're going to put it here. What career were you given? What's the hourly wage? So they're going to need to do that. They're also going to need to know what is the linear equation for the living expenses. So we're going to talk about what that would look like. I would say y equals, and it's $2,960, which is how much living expenses cost in DFW. what is the linear equation for your hourly wage, what that looks like. We're just going to do base pay per hour. I'm not going to add anything like, your parents gave you 50,000 or anything like that, or you are 50,000 in debt. I'm just going to start everybody off at zero. But we can definitely talk about it because I want students to know what a y-intercept is. It's a starting point. Are you starting off in the positive? Are you starting off in the negative? Everybody for this experience is going to start off at zero. And then graphing instructions, they're going to need to put this in Desmos. I know we have our TI calculators, but because this is going to be a digital worksheet, I really want them to use Desmos. Desmos is also embedded in the STAR test, and I really want them to be familiar with that because the TI calculators that we were given, none of those features are embedded in the STAR tests. So that's why I'm having them graph with Desmos for this activity. Make the living expenses line red. So they're going to go into Desmos, make the living expenses line red, and they're going to make their hourly wage green. So if they were to put this in Desmos, so I can get Desmos up. Hold on. Let me get the right Desmos. Desmos, Texas. I have them use the Texas version. They would do something like, so their expenses would be y equals 290.60. I'd have that in red. It's already in red. And then say they make y equals, $20 an hour. Okay, that was a common one. I'd have them zoom all the way out until they see where the line intersects. And then we can talk about what this point of intersection means, is because they're learning about systems. Okay, so once they do that, they need to explain what the solution means. This means that you have to work 148 hours to meet the minimum expenses. So they have to know that they have to meet, have to work 148 hours. Explain what the solution means if you can only work 40 hours a week. So now they're going to have to do an additional step. They're going to have to take 148 and divide by 40 and see what that is. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, so I'm going to grab a calculator. I'm going to do this off camera. Can I find my calculator? I'm just going to do the generic one. And do 148 divided by 40. And then they say they have to work like basically four weeks in a month. It's 3.7. So they have to work every week in the month just to make their living expenses if they make $20 an hour. So does the income exceed the monthly expenses? It doesn't, but they just can't take any days off. Calculate your annual salary, assuming there are 52 weeks in the year, so they'd have to figure out, what their annual salary would be. So they'd have to take what they make, multiply it by 40, and then multiply it by 52 hours a week. So say they make $20 an hour times 40 equals that. So they make $800 a week. And then there's 52 weeks in the year, so to multiply that by 52. And so they'd make $41,600. So that would be their, that's how much their salary is. Okay. What recommendations to improve financial stability in DFW, depending on your career? Will you be able to just have your job, or will you need a second job to support living expenses? So this is what they would need to talk about. What adjustments will they need to make? Will they have to be living with somebody? Are they going to have to get another job? Those are some of the things that we can. Because if you're living with somebody, you'd have to say, are you both going to live in a one-bedroom apartment? Your living situation might change. Your price might go up. It's not necessarily going to be cheaper. So for this question, I just said, would you need a second job? And if students come up with that, I'll give them that reason. Then they talk about minimum wage. Minimum wage is $7.25. How many hours would you need to work to earn a living wage? So this is when they're going to have to use Desmos, change it to $7.25 and see where that would be. And so they'd have to work 408 hours just to make the living expenses. So if you do that, divide that by 40, you basically have to work 10 weeks in a month, and there's no 10 weeks in a month. So basically, making minimum wage living in DFW is a non-factor. Even if you do get two jobs, two minimum wage jobs, you still probably won't be able to make it. So that's the kind of connection I want them to make there. They would have to take that graph and also paste it here in the worksheet. So reflect on the feasibility of working the required hours, especially minimum wage earners. They'd have to realize like you can't do it. It's almost 10 weeks just to make the basic expenses. Like you can't even do anything else. You can't save for anything like that. So that's some of the type of discussion I want the students to have. Discuss the impact of systemic barriers and brainstorm solutions. They can talk about if the kids didn't maybe have opportunity to go to college. Maybe they got in trouble and now they have a record. They can't really get that type of job. Maybe they don't, so maybe they're not legal, so there's just a lot of systemic barriers. They don't have a good education, maybe their parents didn't go to college, maybe they're in foster care. There's so many things that can happen that that wage is what you have, or maybe you have a disability. So those are some of the things that I want the kids to come up with. This is definitely going to be their thoughts, though. It's not mine. These are my thoughts. Um, how Now that you've calculated your gross pay, you can determine your net pay by considering the taxes withheld, approximately 15.3%. So we're not even talking about taxes withheld. They're just talking about minimum wage. We didn't even talk about that they're going to get taxed on their money, so they have to know what that is. So once they see how much they make a month, um so they have to see how much they make a month, and then they're gonna have to tax that. So if say they make $20 an hour times 40 times 4, then they're gonna have to take taxes out. So they're gonna have to take out the taxes. So in order for them to do that, I'd have them multiply their number by 8.847. So they had to multiply by 0.847. And so their actual take home pay is going to be less than that. It's going to be about 2000. So say if you made $20 an hour, I'll put my calculator up here. You actually make 27,000, $2,700.10 and $10.40. So you actually don't even make that money. So that's something that they probably didn't think about. So that they're gonna have to think about. We'll talk about where those taxes go to. They go to the federal government, Medicare, Social Security, things like that. And that's just what it is. Now think about saving for hourly income. Can you do that? Can you save up a 3-month emergency fund with your salary? Um, are you be able to set some money aside? Say if you want to get a new car, say if you want buy a house, want to invest your money. Those are some of the things that we need to talk about. I really want to talk about investing because some of these students need to realize that, not all these jobs come with a retirement plan. That is an actual reality for a lot of people. And they need to know that it's your job, it's your responsibility to come up with your own retirement plan. And not only are you going to be taxed, you actually need to take some of that 15% and put it towards retirement. So not only are you being taxed 15%, you also need to take another additional 15% and put that in your retirement account, which is frightening for a lot of people. So some professions offer built-in pension plans for retirement. Like I can talk about like teachers and doctors and things like that, police officers, firefighters, they have a retirement plan, but a lot of companies don't, and it's their responsibility to save for one. And then they're going to take what they have, their taxed money, and see how much they actually have to work. So their tax money, they'd have to take $20. So I'd have them take $20 an hour, and they'd have to multiply that by 0.847. And so they're actually getting paid about $16.94. And that is what they're going to put into Desmos, $16.94. And then they actually had to say that, oh, I actually had to work 174 hours to make it. So once they do that, they're going to say, can I, you know, divided by, oh, divided by 40. So you'd actually have to work a few weekends if you make $20 an hour. So that's what that looks like. And then they had to explain what that is. All right. And that is the first part of the activity. I teach regular and pre-AP, so and honors math. So that would be just my regulars math. And my honors math class will do this same thing. I did an extension activity for honors math. I have them all as journalists for the second part, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get that up. So my extension activity for my honors class, and even if my regulars class gets to it, you are a news reporter for the local TV station. Your job is to talk to people in your community to ask about what they do for work and how much they make. If they need extra education or training for their job, after collecting this information, you will look at the patterns or problems in the community and suggest ideas to help them improve. So they're going to be surveying 10 students working. So it's going to be helpful for the first one done. They're going to ask those students, what's your occupation? What's your wage? How many hours do you need to work to pay your bills? And then they're going to ask the students, does your job require formal education or training? Yes or no? And that's just the information. They're going to talk to 10 different students. Then they're going to do a notice and wonder. They're going to tell them what they notice and what they wonder about the information or the data they just collected. And then they're going to come up with their pitch that they're going to pitch to the news. So what does your story look like? How are you going to write it down? Because we need to have kids write more in math, and I thought this would be a really creative way to have students do that. And then that is my activity. I'm super excited to do this activity. I would have never been able to think about anything like this before if it didn't come to doing this program, learning about social justice. I really like the statistics class because what I learned is how to just take things that I'm interested in and incorporate them in my lesson, because this is really a statistics lesson, but I'm making it into systems of equation, and I wouldn't be able to make that connection without constantly looking at different types of ways to pitch statistics questions. I love statistics. It's my favorite class ever, and I just really love that I can now really incorporate it in a meaningful way into my algebra class. I look forward to doing more lessons like this, and I look forward to sharing them with you guys. Thank you.